Greetings, Taff here, alongside Victory.
So,
And today we're going to be debunking a video done by Comic Drake, which is titled Theory, is the Flash faster than Shazam / Captain Marvel?
okay, cool.
Now, in the comment section, he admits that he doesn't think this is fact because if there's someone faster than the Flash, it would defeat his character, considering he's titled the fastest man alive. And we're inclined to agree, so we're just going to be presenting the facts that he didn't have when his video was complete.
Alright, makes sense.
Hello and welcome to Comic Drake, where I talk about comic books and my name is Drake. Previously on the channel, we analyzed the fastest man alive, the Flash, and compared his speed to that of Superman. But many of you guys left comments and were curious if the Flash was faster than Shazam, or Captain Marvel, or whatever you want to call him. But let's give the fans what they want and put an obnoxious amount of research to answer this question once and for all. Enjoy. For those of you who aren't super familiar with the power set of Captain Marvel, here's a quick refresher. He has the wisdom of Solomon, the strength of Hercules, the stamina of Atlas, the power of Zeus, the courage of Achilles, and finally, the speed of Mercury. Now, despite the fact that Shazam has a weird mishmash of powers from a bunch of Greek gods, heroes, and a Jewish king, it's interesting to note that Captain Marvel gets his speed and strength from Mercury and Hercules respectively, a Roman god and demigod. More on that later. In order to figure out who is faster between our two heroes, the most logical place to start is looking at any races that the two of them may have had. The first one that comes to mind is when Captain Marvel caught up with the Flash, Barry Allen, in Justice number 7 in 2005, when Barry was being forced to constantly run as fast as he could. Unfortunately though, this is an alternate universe, and there really hasn't been an official race against the Flashes and Shazam in the main DC Comics universe, at least not one that—
Well, it's true what he says, the Flash and Shazam have never had a formal race, but it is true that Jay Garrick's Flash and Black Adam have raced.
I think you showed me images of this before.
And that's true, I have. So while the two have raced, Jay was able to outrun Adam and steal his speed. However, he only does this after outracing him to the speed of light. And then during their fights during Black Rain, he blitzed him. And then he blitzed him once again in another fight. And if we find the source, put in the description box below. But in that fight, he was able to blitz him and then also leave the fight temporarily to save people. Because Adam had disrupted the fight by doing a thunderclap, causing glass to go flying. Because, he's getting blitzed.
So he got stomped then.
Essentially, you could say that, and by the slowest Flash, I may add, as Jay Garrick is a little bit past his prime, and not nearly as fast as Barry or Bart or Wally.
in order to put this debate to rest, we'll need to get creative and figure out if Mercury is faster than Flash, considering that's where Shazam draws his powers. As we've explained multiple times on this channel, the Flashes are what are known as speedsters, meaning that they draw their super speed from an interdimensional power called the Speed Force. By looking at our old friend, the map of the DC Comics multiverse, you can see that the Speed Force surrounds the 52 multiverses, separating it from the Sphere of Gods. It's within this sphere that we have Skyworld, the dimension of any non-Abrahamic gods and their various pantheons. This is important to note because since Skyworld and the gods within it exist outside of the Speed Force, it stands to reason that the various gods of speed transcend the capabilities of speedsters. To prove this, however, we'll need to dig deep within the annals of DC Comics history. The only proper comparison for Mercury's speed is that of the Greek god Hermes. But Drake, many of you guys might be asking, Mercury is just the Roman name for Hermes, and they're the same person. Well, that might be true for the mythology of our real world, but in DC Comics, the Greek and Roman gods are actually separate entities entirely. This happened when the Greek gods created avatars for their Roman worshippers in order to literally be in two places at once. But over time, the Roman gods ended up becoming distinct from their original Greek counterparts. Now, we don't know if Hermes perfectly divided his power when creating Mercury, but regardless, we've seen comparable speeds when the two of them fought, so it's fair to say that they're pretty much equals. Using this knowledge, we can take a look at the Flash Volume 2, number 55, where Hermes straight up annihilates the Flash at the time, Wally West, in a race. It's not even a contest, with Hermes seemingly toying with Wally the entire time. We even get to see an alternate universe Barry Allen race against Hermes in the comic tie-in to the video game Injustice: Gods Among Us. But here's the thing. That's the exact same Hermes that Wally raced against in the main DC Comics universe. Kind of. You see, the gods of DC Comics aren't physical beings per se. They dwell within the sphere of God, sort of like disembodied ideas, and that is referred to as their godhead. Each god's godhead can be refracted like light through a prism, making mortal copies of themselves among the various universes. They're connected, but still separate from the godhead itself, because comics. The best and most well-known example of this is the new god Darkseid, who appears in pretty much every incarnation of the DC multiverse, but has only shown his godhead in the event Final Crisis. So, back to the zoom.
I don't believe that's necessarily how that works. Just because they exist outside of it doesn't necessarily mean that they are greater than it, especially since, considering the fact that Barry is now the one generating the Speed Force. Every step he takes generates it, which means it's an ever-growing thing, and the possibilities for it are infinite. Which means, and the gods have a, even though their strength hasn't necessarily been finite, the Speed Force does have the chance to become greater than it due to the fact that Barry is just constantly moving and running now.
Yeah, that's good to note, especially since the Speed Force is supposed to be a timeless thing, so it extends from our time to the end of time, which could very well be an infinite thing, and it's been stated a few times to be infinite, so I think that's important to note. I think another thing to note is that while it's true, like, Wally's been dicked on by Hermes in the past, that's the key word there, it's the past. It wouldn't necessarily be, the righto thing to go happen right now, especially since, as we just stated another time where, the Egyptian got a speed, which gave Adam his powers, didn't really help him against Jay.
Well, then maybe because he's just a maybe just because he got some of the god strength, not all of it. I doubt they get all of it, even though they're blessed with their speed.
Yeah, I think it's important to note because you have to imagine the fact that the Godhead is creating avatars in every universe that exists, and they're only giving so much power to each avatar, so I think it'd be hard to say that, they're getting a good portion, especially if they're getting their portion from that avatar instead of, the Godhead itself. It's very few beings in DC Universe even know a Godhead exists.
Alright, that's true.
So I don't think it would stand to reason that just because an avatar of Hermes would be faster than the Flash in the past would have anything to do with, Shazam's correlated speed from Mercury.
Protege, Hermes instantly took down the Injustice Barry Allen, catching up to and almost killing him within the blink of an eye. So that solves it. The speed of Mercury makes Captain Marvel quicker than even the fastest speedsters, which means that he's faster than every single.
I 100% agree that Hermes in the Injustice universe is much faster than Barry. I just feel the example he gave was less than proper, especially given the fact that Hermes surprised him, and for many of the comics, Barry becomes one of the slowest people on the planet when he gets surprised by somebody else.
Yeah, that's true. Speedsters are usually not too good when they're caught unaware, and it's not unusual for speedsters, say, slower than another speedster to catch up to them. Like, there have been numerous times where, say, someone like Jay Garrick has been able to catch the reverse Flash unaware despite being slower than him.
It's just a matter of being in the right place. Well, not even that. It's just a matter of knowing where they're going to be and where they're headed. At that point, speed's not really necessary. It's just planning.
Indeed. Hopefully Batman has that one under wraps.
He gets his speed from the very same place as Shazam, Mercury. That's right, the post-Flashpoint version of Earth 2 features the death of every single Roman god. Now, this is interesting because since their death, none of the Roman gods have appeared in any form throughout the entire multiverse from what we can see. So at this point in time, it's not known if it was their refractions that perished, or rather, their godheads. Anyway, in the Earth 2 books, Mercury appears before a man named Jay Garrick, and passes along his powers before dying off, giving Jay access to the same power as Shazam's speed of Mercury. But here's where things get tricky though. There isn't a Captain Marvel on Earth 2, so there's no way to directly compare the speed of both heroes, but one of two scenarios is likely. If just a refraction of Mercury died off and granted Jay speed, that would make him as fast as Shazam. However, if this was the straight-up Godhead of Mercury who died off and passed his powers along to Jay Garrick, that would mean that Jay is more or less the new Mercury, meaning that Captain Marvel gets his speed from Jay, and therefore that would actually make this Flash faster. So is Shazam faster than the Flash? Yes, but maybe not the Earth 2 Jay Garrick Flash. But hey, that's just a theory. A comic theory! I'm probably gonna get a cease and desist.
Now, I think the last thing you brought up is kind of interesting. The fact that, in the rebooted version, Jay did get his speed directly from Mercury as he was killed by Darkseid. But I'd still say it's probably more likely that he simply killed an avatar and not the actual Godhead.
Is it even possible to kill a Godhead?
Well, we don't know if it's possible. I mean, supposedly Darkseid's Godhead died during Crisis, but we know that's not the case considering he was right back ready again to fight for round 2 in the New 52 with all new avatars.
I guess.
And, in addition to that, I think it's evident, considering there have been appearances by their Greek counterparts, and stated, they split apart. I'm not sure if that meant they have their own entirely new Godhead. So I think it's probably likely that, considering his Greek counterparts still exist, that his Roman counterparts still exist in other universes, and they just haven't appeared because they're not really relevant to many stories.
That's understandable.
So I think that really concludes it, Shazam is indeed not faster than the Flash, based on the fact that he should be comparable to Black Adam's speed, who has been outran by Jay.
The slowest.
Flash in the DC universe. Well, during the pre-52 anyway. And so we'd also like to conclude that it's a very ambiguous thing how much speed they get from, the gods, and, it's not really anything that's incredibly clear, but I think it's reasonable to say that Adam and Shazam are comparable, and as such, they should be the slower pair.
We're not exactly saying that the Flash is always faster. We're just saying with the current amount of information we have to go on, Flash is known to be faster. Who knows? Shazam and Black Adam may just be dicking around and holding back their speed on purpose.
With DC Comics, you never really know what anyone is doing at any given time.
True.
So I think that about sums it up. I love Comic Drake, and we'll link his video in the description box, and we think you should still check it out, despite us feeling that the information may not be incredibly pertinent or correct.
Give him a sub, like, favorite, and comment.
Yeah, and while you're doing it, you might as well hit us up there too.
Yeah. Be a bro.
Alright, well, thanks. We'll be catching you later.
Hopefully what I just said doesn't get us sued.
I doubt it. Alright, later.
Bye.